All right, now we're official. All right, so welcome everybody. This is the February meeting of the Nevada County Camera Club, and nice to see everybody. My name is Rachel Rosenwald. We haven't met, and I'm the president for this year. So I'm expecting to have several guests. Just a real quick overview. If this is your first time, we're glad you're here. And we've got some announcements. And then I will turn it over to Kathy and we'll do a presentation. We have a wonderful guest speaker today. Then we'll take a short intermission, and then the second half of the meeting will be the critique of images submitted by members. All right, so as you just heard Kathy say, everybody's muted, but if there is a question or you need to speak or something, just you can hold down your space bar and ask a question if need be. You're more than welcome to do that. And then I'm also watching, as is Kathy, during the whole course of the evening. If there is background noise and anybody's coming from a particular person, we'll mute you. We have the ability to do that here, just so we get it clean as a recording as possible. And this is being recorded, as you know, and it'll be up on the club's web page under meeting videos. Takes me a couple of days, 2-3 days. It should be up there. So. All right, so we've changed the order just a little bit, and we've moved up the introduction of guests and new members to earlier in the program. And so what I'm going to do is turn it over to Barbara Summers. She's our membership chair, to welcome new members and guests. So Barbara, I'll turn it over to you. And you need to be.
I am unmuted because
you are unmuted. Awesome. Okay. All right.
So welcome everybody to your camera club. I'm the membership chairperson, and I want to let you know that membership as of today is 111. So we are moving right along. That's good news. This is the last day that I'll have to do this duty yet again to remind about dues, membership dues. This is the last day for membership dues. So, you know, if you have your check in an envelope laying on a desk somewhere, go drop it in the mail, or go even after club to PayPal and get your membership dues in. It just takes a few minutes when you go to the Camera Club site. We will hold off 1 week, so 1 week next Monday. To give time for everything to clear the bank and get to the post office and all that kind of a thing. After next Monday, members who have not paid their dues will be dropped from membership for non-payment of dues. If you decide after that point, if there is somebody who wants to continue with the club, you will need to go to the site. You will need to print out the application and reapply. So rather than doing all of that, do it tonight. For anybody who's still out there, do it tonight. Anyway, so with that, that's all that kind of news that I have. We have several people to introduce. We have 2 people who are returning. They were members in the past, a couple of years ago, I think, and they are returning. And I don't know how to get this on 2 screens, so excuse me while I switch back and forth. Lucy, are you here? Teteralt?
Tetro.
Does anybody see her?
Do I see her on the list? Okay, I do
I don't
not.
have a
I
list.
don't think she's with us this evening.
Okay, how about
Not
Sharon
yet.
Rose?
Pardon?
How about Sharon Rose?
Let me look. Sharon, no, I do not see her on the.
Okay,
list
all
either.
right. Okay, so now for new members then, we asked about these people last month. We're going to try again this month and see if they're here. Lenny? Is Lenny here?
I don't see a Lenny.
Oldbright, I think is how you pronounce it. No? How about Brad Oliver?
No.
No,
okay.
no.
Frank Gould?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the most recent list now. Ellie Clayson?
let's see.
or Klassen, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's
Clausen?
his wife.
Oh, no, she's not on here.
Okay, so the next one is Mary Good, and she is our treasurer's wife.
No,
So Mary, are you here?
I don't.
Well, this is going to take a whole lot less time than I thought. Okay. Okay, so Lori Humphrey, and
She's
she
here.
is the Wages significant other,
Woo-hoo.
and she just threw down and declared war on him with her new phone. So Lori, tell us a little bit about photography in your world.
Let me unmute you here.
I am unmuted, thank
Oh,
you.
good.
I, enjoy taking pictures, but I've never considered myself, proficient at it. So, of course, with Bill's guidance, I'm learning how to edit and, learning how to take pictures. So
Right,
I'm going to give him a run for his money.
Okay.
Woo-hoo.
there you go. We'll look forward to seeing your pictures come up for evaluation and critique and so forth, and Bill can just sit there and keep his mouth shut and watch.
But Lori didn't mention that she's a great artist already,
Yes,
so she has a leg up.
yeah, sure does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, and our last person is Emily Weissman.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily.
Hi,
There she is. Hi, Emily.
welcome.
Yeah,
Nice to
welcome
meet you all.
to the club. Tell us a little bit about your photography.
Well, I've been taking photos for most of my life, and it's just been like a ongoing passion of mine. I take a lot of nature photography. I do a lot of hiking. And I really like environmental portraits and found still life photography. And I'll also just share that I'm new to Nevada County. My husband and I moved from the Bay Area about a year ago from Oakland.
Well, welcome. And I think that just about does it. So I'll give it back to you, Rachel.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
And welcome, Emily and Lori. It's nice to see you and have you join the club. All right, a few announcements from me. Next one, our proverbial when are we going to return to in-person meetings? And so what the situation is now, we're clearly on Zoom tonight, and Kathy to book the presenters, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but I believe we have a online presentation for both March and April. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so we are at this moment anticipating that March and April they will be on Zoom, remote. So the earliest we could come back together in person would be in May. And so if things continue like they are now, fingers crossed, we will be able to come back together after more than 2 years in May. But again, as with all things COVID, we'll wait and see, and we'll surely let you guys know in preparation for the May meeting. But I'm hopeful. So, all right, next announcement is Photography Month in April is coming up. And if you don't know, the club has 3 events as part of Photography Month. This is a every other year event for the greater Sacramento area, 5-county region. Our club for the very first time is participating by our largest exhibit that we've ever had, which is at the Granucci Gallery at the Center for the Arts in Grass Valley. And that one, the drop off for your prints is tomorrow, Tuesday, March 1st from 10 to 1. And the committee will be there to welcome you and take your print. And the committee is Ellen Davis and Wesling, Kathy Trello, and myself. So we will be looking forward to seeing your prints tomorrow. So drop off is tomorrow. Then Friday night is the opening gala reception. It's actually in person. And it's from 5 to 7. Absolutely. This is going to be really exciting. Yes. So please join us. You don't have to have a print. Anyone in the club can join us for the reception. Bring family, bring friends. We're going to have a big turnout for the reception. It is a beautiful space. If you have not seen the renovated Granucci Gallery, it's really something special. So please join us.
Rachel, what are the mask requirements or, and are they looking to see your COVID card or what are we?
What Bryn shared with me is that I would, it's been a couple of weeks ago, but I would expect to have your mask and be asked to wear it. I don't know for sure. She was not asking for vaccination cards.
Great.
So
So just bring a mask.
bring a mask, yes.
And Shelby is asking what time on
It's
Friday?
5 to 7.
Thank you.
And there will be, hey guys, there's hors d'oeuvres, the Center for the
Woohoo.
Arts. This is fancy. So we've got some light nibbles and they have a bar inside. So there'll be drinks for purchase there. So please come and hang out and enjoy the fantastic work by your fellow members. So, and the show there runs, it opens on Saturday. Our reception is just closed. It's just for us. And then the show opens on Saturday at noon and runs through that's the 5th of March through April 16th. So that's our, did you have a comment, Kathy?
Emily just asked a question in chat and I thought it would be nice to answer it, Rachel.
Yeah,
I think, Emily, the thing is that this is already a done deal. Everybody's already turned in their work. So the next opportunity, we will let you know. But this is, everybody's turning in their work tomorrow and it was all chosen by a committee.
right. This was a juried show and
Yeah.
yeah, but there's more coming up. So if not this one, we'll get you in another exhibition for sure.
One more thing, Rachel.
Yes.
Donna said the invitation says the reception is 4 to 5.
Did it?
I'm not aware of that. Anne, are you aware?
And yes, our PR person.
I hope not.
Donna, are you talking about the one that Rachel sent out via PDF the other day? You have to unmute to answer.
Yeah, push your space bar.
If you can.
Okay. Well, I'll go on and we can circle back at a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah,
It
well,
says
I-
March 4th to 5th, or March 4th to 5 p.m. So it kind of looks like 4 to 5, but it's 5 to 7.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
thank you,
Michael.
Okay, so it's Friday night, this coming Friday night, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Center for the Arts. So please join us. So that's the first event that this club is hosting for Photography Month. And again, these get posted in the Sacramento 365. So the information about the club's events are going all across the greater Sacramento region, hopefully drawing people from all over our region to come up to Grass Valley, Nevada City and appreciate and celebrate photography with us. The second item is the on-camera challenge. And I'm going to ask either Dave McClellan or Kathy, you want to talk about the on-camera challenge?
Dave, you want to be our spokesman?
Let's see. I don't have notes for that. But the challenge.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Dave, you're cutting
Oh.
out.
Okay, well, yeah, my bandwidth is not that great. Hopefully, with my other announcements, this will work. I'll try to speak up and talk slowly. The photo challenge was launched last Friday night. We have, I believe, 30 people participating. Everybody got their grids, and we had until last night to shoot within those grids on the map of Grass Valley and Nevada City. And so now you have the rest of March or so to get your image selected and processed. And remember to check the dates on the emails about this to be sure you get your thumbnail and your image description to Kathy by the date that's there. And this year will be at the Courtyard Suites in Grass Valley. And they are going to have food and beverages supplied for that as well, for the reception for that on April 2nd. And so there will be more notices going out concerning that as we move along. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thank you. And then the third thing is for Photography Month is we have the photo walks, which is being run by Kathy. You want to talk about those?
Just, we're going to have a really good time. You can see all the particulars on our website once you sign in as a member. Just go to the little clicky thingy under our photo.
Clicky thinky, the official term. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And you can get all the details. And I hope that you join us. It's not only for the public, it's for the Camera Club members. And when we did a couple of previews, Grace, one of our new members, joined us and we all had a really great time. So looking forward to seeing you and the public, and invite your friends and family. And as I said, dates and times are on the website, so go check them out. Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, thanks. All right, so that's photo month coming up. Okay, that completes my announcements on that. The next thing I'd like to ask is we have two folks who have done just a spectacular job for the club running our exhibitions, really special and beautifully done exhibitions for club members. And so that's Dave McClellan and Ellen Davis. And so Dave McClellan wanted to share a call out to the club for some potential new volunteers for that group.
Right, yeah. One quick message first. The current gallery show at Nevada City Picture Framing is ready to pick up this week. If you have art in the show, the best times to stop by are tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday from noon until 4. She's closed on Fridays, and if you can't get in during those times, please let Ellen know and she can make arrangements with you. She'll stop by on Saturday and check for any that haven't been picked up. And then I'd like to start by acknowledging and thanking everyone who has taken part in the club member gallery shows that we've put on for the last 3 years or so. And in case you haven't heard, the current show at Nevada City Picture Framing will be the last one. The owner, Melissa, is planning on remodeling her space, and so that venue will no longer be available. And before I get to my question, I'd like to acknowledge both Kathy Triolo and Ellen Davis for their amazing work developing the format and tools that we've used to offer the opportunity for club members to show their work in that gallery setting. Kathy helped develop the first year shows, and then Ellen took over the organizational management for the shows since then. And I've kind of been behind the scenes helping with the curating and climbing the ladders, doing the hang. And Ellen now has other adventures to pursue, and my ladder climbing days are kind of over. So she and I are both stepping down from the Gallery and Exhibitions Committee, and that means there's an opportunity.
Mhm.
So the Camera Club is looking for volunteers that might want to continue the Gallery Shows and Exhibitions Committee. That's a chair on the board. And this team would find gallery venues, create the calls for art to encourage club members to participate, curate the image submissions, and coordinate the display, the hanging, and the publicity of future Camera Club gallery shows. And there's some great documents and pre-done templates that are available to help manage the details. And so if you're interested in being part of the gallery and shows and exhibitions team, contact Rachel Rosenthal, the club president. And if you have hung your own art in gallery shows, you're fully qualified. So think about it. If you're interested, contact Rachel and she can share information with you. All right, thanks.
All right, and let me pitch it back to Dave and Ellen and Kathy. The work that they have done is really extraordinary. And as I've said before, the directions and the advice and counsel you get on how to do this is really exceeds some of the larger exhibitions I've done in this area. So if you're interested, you are going to be given, you should see all the documentation that Dave and Ellen have put together. You will have beautiful templates to go by. You don't have to create any of this from scratch. And I'm sure they would work with you too to help coach you on the side with questions and that kind of thing. But it's been a really special opportunity for the club members. Many people getting to exhibit their work for the very first time, everything from where to get it printed, how to mat it, how to frame it, how to hang it. It's a wonderful way to improve your own skills as a photographer is to actually print, and you'll find your photography gets better when you do print. So encourage anybody who has some interest, please send me an email. And with that, a huge thank you to Dave and Ellen and Kathy for getting these wonderful shows set up. So if we're looking for, go on to the next chapter, whatever that might be. So
Thanks, guys.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So next on the announcements on my list we've got some field trips and larger trips, David Wong and Bill Wages. I don't know which would like to go first. Excuse me.
Bill, do you want to talk about Bridgeport, or you want me to do it?
Yes, I can start that off. So David Wong and myself will be doing a field trip at Bridgeport at the newly restored covered bridge. The date is March 10th. We're going to be meeting there, what, at 8:30?
Yeah, if you're gonna go to directly there, we'll meet at the parking lot there at 8:30. If you're gonna meet us and leave from Grass Valley Safeway downtown, we'll leave there at 7:45. I haven't sent that out. There's been a number of you that have responded, but I will send out that, repeat that, and that's the plan. And it'll be a fun thing. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you know, the bridge has been all reconstructed and they opened to a gala at the end of it was October, November last year. So I know that Keith has asked me and I didn't get back to him, but if you're going to go directly there, we'll meet you there at 8:30.
Yeah, and I've seen some photos from the Yuba River just recently on Facebook, and it looks like some of the poppies are starting to come out already.
Oh.
So there's a good chance of having some nice wildflowers by the time this comes around. So
Now, I'm just thinking too, Bill, for William's benefit. I mean, is that the closest covered bridge to San Francisco? I mean, I'm guessing that'd be a unique opportunity for William if we get him up here in person to shoot the covered bridge. Is that?
yeah, I don't know of any other that's closer to the Bay Area. But
Okay.
yeah, that's definitely a lot of history there. And like I said, they just restored it. We're allowed to go inside of it now. Before they had it fenced off, you couldn't get in there. And and then then you got the Yuba River right there as well. Yeah, it's just a beautiful area if you've never been there. And it would be hiking up the Buttermilk Bend Trail as well, which is a nice, easy hike as well. So
I think it's the longest covered bridge. I don't know in the country, but it's definitely one of the longer ones.
It's the longest single span bridge.
Ah, okay.
Really? Wow.
In the world.
In the
Really?
world?
Yes, I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. So then to David, then to you, I guess.
Yeah, so a couple of my own trips. We have five more spaces left in Costa Rica. I know you've heard about it, but Josh Miller, myself, and another teacher will be, so there'll be three of us plus a naturalist, July 4th to the 14th. We still have 5 spaces if you want to join us. We have a really great trip and lots and lots of wildlife shooting. So let me know if you're interested. And then just one other one, I let me know if I'm getting a pulse on this one. I'm putting together a possible Iceland trip in the winter, January, February. For you hardy souls that want to get ice caves and have, the wind and all those things that you can't get in the spring and summer in Iceland. So let me know of your interest if you would. And that's all I have.
Okay. Ooh, how about Aurora Borealis?
Yes, Aurora
Yes.
Borealis. That'll be great. But one of the nicest things is if we can get the ice caves, because the ice caves, they really only do it in the winter, because otherwise it's too warm and you have the danger of the rocks falling off of the ice ceiling on top of you. So, but it's kind of like, it's a little bit like Denali. You have to be there on the right day. And I can show you some pictures, but let me know anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Any other announcements? Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'd just like to thank all the people that showed up at my reception. It was such a great turnout and a show of support from Camera Club members, and it felt like a big party. So thank you to all of you for showing up. It was fun.
I think Jonathan has an announcement.
Oh, Jonathan, then
Yeah.
please share.
You're muted, Jonathan. There you go.
I have a show at the Flower Garden Bakery in Brunswick. Please come, enjoy, and have a cup of coffee or soup. That's all. Thank you.
That's good. Yeah,
When,
congratulations.
when, Jonathan? When?
It's through April.
April.
Now it's March, right?
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay,
Tomorrow,
so through
yep.
April. That means until the end of April. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, congrats. All right, with that, then that concludes the announcements. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Triolo to introduce our speaker for tonight. So-
All righty, it's a pleasure. All right. Thank you so much, William, for coming all the way up from San Francisco. William originally was going to be with us in person and was so gracious and flexible to join us via Zoom. He is a San Francisco-based travel photographer and a photo workshop leader. His photos have been published in photography magazines in the US, China, and Europe. And his travel photography clients include Amazon, Ubisoft, Accenture, Google, Ogilvy One Worldwide, Microsoft, American Airlines, Ernst & Young, Bloomberg Finance, and the titles go on. Tonight, William is going to present tips and tricks of storytelling with photography. And I know that we all find that valuable. And I first saw William give his talk through the Photographic Society of America, and I really liked what he had to say, and I thought it was important for him to share that with our group. He is going to show how it takes skill, knowledge, and experience to take better and memorable images when traveling, telling the story of places, culture, and people. He's also going to share tips and tricks for different aspects of photography, from gear choices, images to image composition, from technical to creative, from planning to execution, and also post-processing. So let me turn it over to William. And William, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everybody, my fellow photographers. And it's my pleasure today for the invitation to present for your camera club, for everybody in this camera club. And I've been into photography about 20 some years, and then started workshop about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. I love travel. Travel and the photography are two of my passions. So it's just a dream come true to can lead a photography workshops and meet fabulous people and travel together, shooting together, and enjoy the culture, landscapes, and everything about the travel. So for here, I like to share some of my tips and my experience with you and with my images. Here we go. All right. First, let me start with some tips about travel planning and some important stuff to bring. And first, I love this Lume Cube. This is called a Lume Cube LED lights. It's tiny and it's a very little one, and you can pack it anywhere, but it's very useful. And especially at night, like this one. This is in Bolivia, in the salt flat called Uyuni. It's the largest salt flat in the world. And at that night, so it's very, very still and quiet in the water. And you can see the sky, the galaxy is perfectly reflected in water. So to shooting this kind of picture, you need some kind of foreground, an interesting foreground. And then I found these two Jeeps. These are our Jeeps. So I just put this Lume Cube into the cabins of the Jeep and just turn on remotely through the phone. So they will make an interesting foreground, and then I take this picture. And if you just turn on the lights inside the SUV, it will be too bright. And this tiny little cube of light is perfect to get a perfect exposure. The next thing is the headlight. It's so important to bring your headlight for the night shoot or anything you're shooting in the low light. And there's a misconception. A lot of people say in the night, the red light is good for the eyes. But I say no, red light is maybe good for the eyes, but it's not really good for the camera sensor. The camera sensor is very, very sensitive, and it can see the red light much better than the human eyes. Then you will get this kind of thing. So this is in Iceland in the winter. At the night, we were shooting this famous place. There's the icon of the Iceland, the Kukju Mountain. We lined up over here. So everybody turned the headlights on to dial in their exposure. Then a lot of people using red lights. This is the result. So you have lots of red light the contamination. So you can see some of the red lights can travel very far. You know, it's the image is totally contaminated. And this one too. And we're standing. This is in Norway in the winter, and the beautiful Lofoten area. We're shooting the aurora. And we all lined up on the side of the highway, and then some red lights travel really far into that area. Actually, it's like a couple 10 feet away. So it's got a contaminated red light. It's very hard to remove these kind of colorful red lights in the post-processing. So I think it's best just to use white lights, especially turn your headlights power to very, very little. And I like this one, this particular model. It's called HC90. It can dial down the power level to 1/10 of a lumen. So it's very, very tiny little light. So it won't travel very long, the light, and also just lock your camera and it just turn off, and it won't affect your images. So yeah, my recommendation is that during the night, you don't use the red lights, just using a tiny little white light will be fine. And another great thing to bring is always bring with you is the lens wipes, or my favorite is a microfiber cloth. And it's always travel with me in my pocket. And in a situation like you're shooting waterfalls or very wet area, you have a splash or those sprays coming from the waterfalls, you have to wipe your lens constantly. So this is the in Iceland, the famous waterfall. And you can walk to the back of this waterfall in like a half cave and shooting from inside out. But the wash is constant, gonna spray your camera, your lenses, and everything. So you need the cloth to constantly wipe your lens. Otherwise, you get those little water splashes on your lenses, and it will be appearing in your pictures. this is another place just maybe another 100 feet away from that waterfall. And that's inside a cave. It's also a waterfall. You have lots of splash, lots of water in the air. So you definitely need those water, the cloths, the microfiber cloths, to constantly wipe dry your lenses. Next time we talk about some gears. For my workshop attender and lots of beginners, they say, oh, well, what's your recommendation for cameras? I say, any modern camera right now is fine. And I don't care about brands. And what doesn't matter is Canon, Nikon, Sony, where. And all those major brands are totally fine because technology is already there. And it's not really about a camera. It's a good picture depends on the person behind the camera. And that's what I bring because I'm a travel photographer. I always try to cut down my weight. The weight is more sensitive as my age goes up. So weight becomes more sensitive. So I try always to look out to cut down my weight. So basically right now I usually only carry 3 lenses. One the wide angle, it's like my one is I'm using Sony. So it's Sony 12 to 24. f2.8, then a normal lens, just general purpose walk around the lens. That would be my 24 to 70 millimeter, 2.8. And also I always carry a telephoto lens. It's a 70. My one is a 100 to 400 millimeter Sony. And if you like, you can carry a 70 to 200 if you don't want 100 to 400. And 70 to 200 may be another good choice. And for me, tripod is another huge important stuff, the camera gear to carry. And this is so important because lots of time, people complain about blurry images. My image is not clear, especially in landscape images. Usually it's because you handheld it, or you put a camera on top of not very good tripod like this one, and it's like a plastic. For tripod selection, I recommend you have to really pay attention to 3 most important elements: stability, portability, and the tripod head. But stability and portability is the 2 ends of the equation. So if you want more stability, you will sacrifice on the portability side because the weight is getting higher and it's more heavy. But if you want absolute portability, you will sacrifice on the stability side. You want a really light tripod, but light tripod, less stability. That's just physics. So whatever I recommend is you need a tripod to your limitation of your the weight. Whatever you can carry, the highest, the heaviest tripod you can get is what you want. These are the 3 filters I carry with me usually during the travel. And one is the 3-stop grad neutral density filter. And another one is the 10-stop ND filter plus a polarizer. I use them a lot. And for the these ND filters plus the grad ND filters, I don't like to use the especially for the grad ND filters, I don't like to use the circular one, because if you get a circular one, once you put it on your lens, it's fixed. You cannot move it up and down. So it will limit your composition. It will force you to fit your composition to this filter. But what you should do is the opposite. You should fit the filter to a composition, not the other way. So I like the square filters for the grad ND filter. So like this images, I use the 3-stop grad ND filters to darken down the sky to compress the dynamic range. This one's in the beautiful Huangshan in China. And this is the grading. And in the sunset time, actually the sky is very bright, especially in this area. So I use a 3-stop grad ND filter to darken down the sky. You just slide down the filter to look through the lenses and try to find the perfect point where you set the line of the filter. This is another grading in the early morning and in the Lee River. And I use the 3-stop ND filter to compress the sky brightness. And this is the perfect application to use a 10-stop ND filter. And the upper image is a 3-minute exposure with the 10-stop ND filter. So you can see clearly the sky is being smoothed, the water is being smoothed, and it have a more ethereal feeling of it. The image below is without filter, without the ND filter, and it's a 1/6 second exposure. And the sky, you can see sky and the water is a little messy. It's just not as good as the top picture. So with moving skies in landscape or moving waters, a lot of times if you apply an ND filter on it, and it will give you some better image than just the normal without filter image. And this one is shot last year in the swamps of Texas. And this is the perfect, that day have a perfect sunset. And the light is just so gorgeous on those trees. And the left one is without filter. The right picture, I use the 10-stop ND filter. And it's just smooths the water. And I like the smoothness of the water. And this one is used the ND, this is used the 6-stop ND filter in Norway. This is a very famous fishing village in Lofoten area in Norway in the winter. And this one is another fishing village island in northern Norway called the Senja area. And in this overview point, I use the 10-stop ND filter to making the clouds streaming. So it's give you a more surreal feeling. This is the in the Tamales Bay in the North Bay area, near the National Seashore. I use the 10-stop filter, 10-stop ND filter on it to smooth the water and the fogs. Then turn it into black and white. Next, I want to share one of my technique to shooting street and for street people photography. And this one is in the Tibet. It's very high. And we run into this Tibetan lady and then talk to her, and she loved the photography of a photograph to be taken by us. And so for this kind of photography, I like to use 70 to 100 millimeter with the 200 millimeter f8. On the 200 millimeter side, f8 is just very nice to blur the background and make the subject pop. These two pictures are India, and we traveled to India. This is southern India in the Kerala state. And I shot a series, and later on I published an online book called On the Face of Kerala. So these are one of the two gentlemen in my series. So I went there and intentionally giving myself an assignment of scenes. I just taking the portraits, head portraits of the local people, and using 70 to 200 on the 200 millimeter, or on the at least on the long side with 2.8 aperture to blur the background. And I intentionally found a simple or some colorful background. that is the opportunity to use your shutter speed priority and to catch some motions. If you want to freeze the motions or pan the camera with the subject. So it's a nice way to employ the shutter speed priority on the camera shooting mode. So the top one is in Myanmar, and it's in Mandalay, and near the famous the Ubon Bridge. So it is early morning. This guy is throwing the fish net. Yeah, so I using the shutter speed priority mode and set it to 500 seconds to try to freeze the motion, and it turned out to be a good picture. And the lower one is in San Francisco, a rainy day, and I panning the camera to follow this guy with a yellow raincoat, and because he's walking, so speed is not very high. So I'm using a relatively slow shutter in like a half second to follow him, pan with him, and creating an effect. You look at the background, like a streaking effect at the background, those people walking and on those shops. And this is another technique I'm using for using like a traditional 35mm for street photography. And I will use the Sunny 16 rule as the guide. So if the Sunny 16 rule says on a sunny day, set aperture to f16 and the shutter speed to the reciprocal of the ISO speed for our subject in direct sunlight. What it means is if you, in a sunny day, you set your aperture to f16, then if your shutter speed is 100 seconds, then your ISO will be 100. If your ISO will be 100, your shutter speed will be 100 seconds. But for street subjects, 100 seconds is not fast enough. You will get blur picture a lot of times. So you adapt to this rule. They increase the ISO to 400. Then the reciprocal of the ISO is 400 second. Once you set there, because 400 second, it will be fast enough to isolate and freezing the subjects without blur. So once you set there, you don't have to worry about your exposure anymore. Just pay attention to your composition. And then also you set your focus to hyperfocal distance. What I mean is for 35mm, you set your focal distance to 10 feet or 3 meters and just stay there and don't touch your focus ring again. And then you can forget about the focus, because everything from 5 feet to infinity is in focus. So now you get your exposure set, your focus set. You don't have to worry about it anymore unless the light level change. So once it's in direct sunlight, like subject here, you just try to focus, try to compose and shoot. You only pay attention to your composition, then shoot. Then if the light level change, like this one, and it's not in fully direct sunlight, so it's less than, the light level is less than the full direct sunlight, then you adjust your ISO accordingly. So for this one, I adjust the ISO one stop up to ISO 800 to compensate for the loss of light. And this one too, because the light level is not in direct sunlight. So I increase my ISO to 800. So that way, I'm using these two pictures I shot in this kind of setting too. But this is the area in Eastern Tibet that's the largest Buddhist institute in the world. And the local monks and nuns are, they are shy from the camera. they don't want to be captured directly with the camera. So I have no other choice. So I just lay down my camera on the, find an intersection in the outside institute. I just lay down the camera on the ground, put on the little tiny little tripod. I using my phone to control the camera, and with my camera, it's a 35mm lens, the typical street shooting lens there, and using the technique I just showed before, set the aperture, set the exposure and the focus. And you don't have to worry about that, because they are in the sunny light. So everything is like ISO 400, 400 f16. And then I just, when they come up, I just keep shooting using my iPhone. So I call it stealth mode and being very discreet. So people not even pay attention or notice it. So you can see the expression on their face is very, very natural. But I love this area to shoot, but unfortunately, this area is closed by the government since 2016. This is the same area in the morning, and we are using the same technique, and I walk around with this tiny little small Fuji X100 camera, 35mm, and just on my waist level. And when they approaching, I just press the shutter. Just keep pressing the shutter, and this is one of the pictures. And okay, next thing I talk about is I like to capture people's expressions and their gestures and to tell a story. So this one is in the Qinghai, on the shores of Qinghai Lake. This is the largest salt lake in China, and I saw these two people in the morning and grooming the yak on the lake shore in the early morning. So I just, getting down really low with my camera shooting up. That way you make the yak very dominating, so you get a viewer's attention to it. And
Liam,
this, yeah.
there's a question. Someone wanted to know if you're using silent shutter mode when you do your stealth shooting.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, if the camera have the silent shutter mode, I'm definitely using it.
Great, thank you.
This one's in India, and the southern India on a beach. Lots of those shamans and doing some kind of ritual for the families. So we just walk around, try to find a perfect composition, and I just wait until this shaman doing this kind of a gesture. I like it, so I just press the shutter. And this is also in the same Tibetan area, and in the early morning, we're standing on top of the hill and try to shooting down. I find these three monks, young monks, just coming by, and I find this gesture and their facial expressions very interesting. And just press the shutter. These two, these images I use the long lens because they're far away. I like the expressions on the nun's face, and also these two guys talking to each other. I like the way they communicate to each other and their gestures, and also their like a reddish ropes against the yellow color of the background. This one's in Oregon, and one time after workshop, in the noon, we're coming out of a restaurant. I immediately see just across the street on the roof, I saw this bright yellow wall, but these two guys are working there, but they are in the shadow. So this, I think, is perfect opportunity to shoot against this simple yellow wall with silhouette. For silhouette shooting, the key is separation. So this one, both of them are separated. What they do, the viewer can clearly see what they do. But if like this one, it's not that good because their silhouette are merged. So when you're shooting silhouette, the key is pay attention, and you don't want them to merge. You want your subject to be clearly identified against the background, like this one. And this is the holy city in India, Hinduism in the Varanasi, and on the bank of the Ganges. Lots of activities. You have lots of opportunity to shoot. So I just saw this this guy, grooming this guy, and the hair cutting too. So I just photograph closely, fill the frame with their gestures. This is one of the minority villages in southern China. They're very poor. So we visited their families and gave them donations and shooting inside of their homes. And this is next to a window. The window light is pouring in to give a very nice light to this woman and carrying a baby on the back and doing some weaving. And this is one of my workshop members. She is showing after shooting this young kids and the old lady. She's showing the picture to them. So I saw the expression on their faces. It's just so nice. So it's about like 50 feet away. I use like 100. No, it's by then it's 70 to 100 millimeter. Catch this image. Yeah, she liked it very much. And this is one of the last Gunner tribe in China, and they have a minority. They are minority people. They have a ritual like when you turn into adult, they have a ceremony to use a sickle to cut the hair. So this is one of the ceremony to use the sickle to cut the hair. What I like to talk more is about the composition. So I really like study the composition of the photography. So the basic composition is the line, shape, form, texture, color, size, and depth. So every image, if you look closely, you will employ some of those composition techniques. First thing is almost every photo shooting, everyone's using it. Most popular rules of composition is the rule of thirds. So basically you divide your subject, your frame into 3 parts, up and down and left to right into 1/3 line, 1/3 line, 1/3 line, and then place your subject in those either 1/3 lines or on the cross point of the 1/3 lines. And this one is in the Shapu, that's in the mud flats of the southern China. And so the subject here will be the perfect location to shoot. And this is in the ice caves in Iceland. And I highly recommend you go with David. I mean, the winter Iceland is just fantastic. I guarantee you, in the winter, if you can get into the ice cave every year is different. So I've been there, went there a couple of times. Every year the ice cave is different. So this is one of the years, and one of my workshop member just walked towards this hole in the roof of the ice cave. So I perfectly framed this image, just put him in about 1/3 line to the left. And this is in Norway, and I found this boat in the fjords. So this boat is my subject. I put it in the 1/3 line to the right. The high Altiplano in the Bolivia, and they have some strange rock formations in the high deserts. So I picked one of the strangest rock formations, like a tree. So put this into the left side of the image to frame the whole image. And this is Palouse in Washington State. This is where I love travel to every year. And every June, I organize a workshop over there and a lot of things to shoot. And this is one of the famous barn. You will see a lot of images about this barn and in a lot of photographers' photos. So this one, I isolated this barn and put it in the right 1/3 line. It's Myanmar. I saw this lady and her daughter. They're just doing some dancing. That expression in her face is very nice. So I shoot it, compose the weight, and put them into the 1/3 area. Now, symmetry. So lots of things, especially you are shooting reflections, and it's a great time to employ the technique called symmetry, and just to make the the image will perfectly bisected, and then give an equal weight to the two halves of the image. For this one, is the top half, and then the reflection of the clouds and the mountains. This one's in Bolivia in the Uyuni salt flat. The reflection is gorgeous. And this one is in the Caddo Lake in Texas swamp. And this shot last November, and I framed this image as a reflection. So the top part, the lower part, just equal weight. This in the swamp too. And for this one, I used a 6-stop ND filter to smooth the water to make it more interesting. And this is one of the hotel in Shanghai, China, and I'm using a 16-35mm or 16mm shooting, extend my hands out, hold the camera, shooting straight down towards the lobby from like maybe 20, 30 floors. Make it a perfect symmetry, right to the left. And this is another symmetry or reflection at the skylines of Shanghai. And this is another early morning shot of Guilin, a symmetry. This is one of the mud flats. They're hanging the seaweeds. They're drying the seaweeds on those poles. Those poles are like miles long, those poles, rows and rows of poles. And they put into the mud and they're hanging those seaweeds. But the shape of the poles form into S curves. So this area naturally, because it's so famous right now by the photographers, so everybody know this area is called S curve. So we photographer always looking for curves. And this is another area in the southern China near Vietnam, and the largest amount of rice terraces, stared rice terraces. And this is in May in the harvest season, in the planting season. And I just isolated to one area with repeating S curves. This just shot last December in Death Valley in the sand dunes. I found this S-curve shadow is very interesting in the early morning. And this is a gorgeous river, and the Hanas River that's in the area where sandwiched between China, Russia, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan. That's in the fall, and the fall color there is just gorgeous. And this is a very famous Trollstigen mountain pass in Norway, in southern Norway. And these roads are naturally form lots and lots of curves. Well, this is where 280 meets 101 in San Francisco. So I standing on top of Bernal Heights and shooting down and get those curves and use a slow shutter speed at the dusk to get those lights, streaking lights. And frame in frame. So this is India, and the famous Taj Mahal. I use the door. This one is using this door to frame Taj Mahal, and here and to the right are using the tree leaves to frame naturally the Taj Mahal, and whereas the guide is talking to the guest. And this is the Inle Lake in Myanmar. And you just using the fishnet to frame the famous one-leg riding the fisherman. And this is one of the village in China. They are making bird cages. There's the place the two ladies are making a bird cages. I just shooting through bird cages to frame it. Leading lines. So we use a lot of techniques, and one of the most popular used is the leading lines to lead viewers' eye into the subject. So this is the New York Berkeley Bridge. And this is in Patagonia, this road lead your viewer's eye direct into the Mount Fitzroy. Beautiful mountain peaks. And this is in Iceland in the summer. It's one of the summer, and you know, in Iceland in summer, there's a white night. The sun never goes down. So sun go. This one actually shot at 2 o'clock in the morning. Can you believe it? And the sun goes down 12 o'clock in the midnight. Not really goes down. It's just skip the horizon. Then sunrise again in 2 o'clock in the morning right now. So I just found this abandoned in the dock and just leading a viewer eyes right into the famous Kukjo mountain and the sea and the beautiful lights. And this is the India, and the train and the walkway, it's perfectly, the train station, it's perfectly framed the leading lines. And this one of the village alleys. Yeah. Naturally just frame it with viewer's eye right leading into this lady. All right, this is another technique called the diagonals and triangles. So horizontal and vertical lines convey sense of stability. But in contrast, the diagonal lines and the triangle shapes add visual tension to the image. So it's more interesting and more energetic to human eyes. For this image, I was in the Amber Fort in Jaipur, India, on top, shooting down from the top of the fort, because look at those traffics for the guests coming up on the back of the elephants through the gates of the fort. So I intentionally placed them into a composition that these fort lines, these walls form into a diagonal lines, so make its image more interesting and energetic. And this is another shot of the roads in the rolling hills of the Palouse, Washington State. And I made this composition, make it the road is coming from the top left to the lower right, so make it a diagonal lines. And this is one of the roofs of the Esplanade Theater in Singapore. And it's a very modern looking or even strange looking roofs. So I placed it in a way to form a triangle shape with the diagonal lines across. And this is the harvest season in the rice terraces in the southern China. So I composed it in a way because the mountain just form diagonal lines all the way down from the left to the right. This one too, because this one's in the morning and the fogs is coming up through the valley towards the rice terraces and this village. It's naturally form a diagonal lines and a triangle. This is the one of the temples. They have an orphanage, and this is one of the orphanage. They have serving lunch right before the lunch. They're praying. So I shooting away in a composition with those leading line tables going to the backwards. And this one, in lots of images, especially the landscape images, you need something interesting in the foreground to lead viewers' eyes into the image. For this one, I'm using a 8mm fisheye lens. To use a fisheye lens, you really have to get close to the foreground interest. So basically, my lens and to the front of those vegetables only have a couple inches distance between them. And this is 8mm, so it's form a perfect circle in a full frame camera. And then this is the early morning in Mount Fitzroy in Patagonia, Argentina. And this is the Lake Laguna Capri. It's a very nice lake, beautiful lake. I use this dead logs at the foreground that leads the viewer's eye into the background. And this is the famous Jökulsárlón ice lagoon in Iceland. I use this ice as a leading interest in the foreground, lead the viewer's eye into the lake. This is the last year in Norway on a frozen lake. So I found this interesting pile of snow and it just getting really close to it, make it really big in the foreground, then lead the viewer's eye into the background. And also I place my camera on a tripod. I use the 10-stop ND filter to stream those, make those sky stream. And this is in Norway too, in the southern Norway in the fall season. And I get a really low, standing in the water, getting really low, making this water and the rocks in the foreground and make them really streaking. This is on the way back from the Torres del Paine National Park in Chile. This is the Chilean Patagonia, and with those iconic mountains, mountain peaks in the background. And then I suddenly find that this farm machine tractor and in the foreground. So this is perfect. So I use this tractor as a foreground to lead the viewer's eye into the image, to the background. Another good way to shoot is think about called the rule of odds. So aesthetically, all number of subjects are more visually appealing in photo. So even numbers of objects will have viewers' eyes wandering around. So this, so the guideline works, and especially when you're framing 3 objects, or people, or 5, you know, those all numbers. And it will make the composition much better visual appeal to the viewer. So this is the Rule 3 guanacos. I found it in the Patagonia, the beautiful animals.
William, I have another question. How small of an aperture are you using for these wide landscape shots, or do you ever focus stack images for a deeper depth of field?
Yes, I do. I do focus stacking. However, I'm not doing it all the time. For like image like the, let me show you like this one, I didn't do focus stacking. For this one, I just focused at 1/3 line. Just about this subject in the foreground. I use the aperture like f14 or f16 to try to get as big depth field as I can, but I will never go down to f22 because the diffraction gonna downgrade the image. So the lowest I go usually is f16 and f14 to 16.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, but if I have time, in some situations, I will do focus stacking. If I really have some objects really close to my lens, then I would try focus stacking.
William, can you tell us a little bit more about the diffraction at f22?
Yeah, because the diffraction is a phenomenon of optical phenomenon happened in the lens, but it's a physical phenomenon. When you really make the aperture really small, like f22, the image quality will degrade by blurring the image. The image actually have a tiny little bit blurs, but a lot of times you can you can tell if you look at this just small image or some image on the screen. But if you do prints side by side, you can tell one image is a little bit blurred. Instead of, if you like shooting image at f8, then another image at f22, definitely the f22 image will be a little bit less sharp than the f8 image. So it's a optical phenomenon happen to all the lenses in the cameras. So I don't want dial down to f22. The lowest I go is the f16, try to minimize the effect of the diffractions.
Okay, thank you.
Another my habit is when I travel, I always looking for interesting patterns or textures. This become one of my theme. So whenever I travel, I always pay attention, some interesting patterns, textures, like this one. This one's from Tibet. So they have their local, this is one of their, I visited one of their homes, and they have gorgeous painting, colorful windows, and the door frames was those so colorful patterns. So I just like to take image of those. Of course, this is the Death Valley and the Badwater area. And every year it's changing, sometimes it's very bright, sometimes it's brownish. So last year, this is I shot last year. And this is one of another area in the southern China called the Redland. Their soil have a lots of iron, so the soil is super red. And they plant some wheat, some buckwheats, some different plants to it. And when shooting it, and so they're so colorful, it felt like they're like kind of like a velvet. And this is one of the salt mine in Peru. When we travel through Peru, we visited one of the salt mines, and they're cutting the salt mines on the slope into pieces. So I just frame in and fill the frame with those patterns, textures. This is another image of this the Tibetan Buddhist Institute area. These are actually all the huts, the dorms for the monks and the nuns studying in the institute. So this was shot at almost a night. The lights is on. So the rows of those huts on the slope. So forms a very nice texture and a pattern.
William, are any of these taken with a drone?
No, not yet. I will show you one of the drones. Yeah, these are not drone images. Yeah, this actually the wide angle image of the whole area. In the center is the Buddhist Institute, or surrounding it is just the little huts. And these are one of the rice terraces in the southern China in the sunset time. The sunset is reflected in water, because in the winter, these terraces are filled with water that create perfect reflections of the sky. Another thing I wanted to do always is try to fill the frame with subject. So I always do my best to fill the frame, because you can see to the left is just a normal snapshot, but if you focus really in, then fill the frame, or just walk closer to them, fill the frame with their faces. That picture was much better than the left one, and more catching to the viewer. And this is another fill technique I like to use when you're shooting nature, especially trees or colorful trees. I just using a shutter speed like half a second, or around half a second. Then during exposure, move your lens a little bit up or down, forming a kind of painterly feeling of the image. And then you have all these tree trunks fill the frame. This in the alpaca in Peru. See, this one I shot with my 100-400. It's too far away and still not good enough. So I just keep going, zooming in until they're filled frame. This is much more visual impact than the left one. It's so cute, that little one. And this is the India. I like to shoot in India. I like to shoot people's face. They're just so fantastic. So this one of the shaman in the holy city of the Varanasi. And this one is not close enough. So I'm moving closer. Just isolate his head, give a very nice headshot. This one is the rice terraces. To the left is wide angle shot. It's okay. But the right one, I really zoom in. Fill the frame. This one in the red land area. Oh, in the red land area, you know, the lower one is just snapshot, but the top one, yeah, I zoom in, really focus on his face and gesture. Another technique is the contrast. So for contrast, there's a lot of different way you can do the contrast. You can use the color contrast, like this yellow airplane against the blue sky, or you can use the brightness level, the tone contrast, the dark versus bright, like using a silhouette to illustrate this image, or use something like a big versus small for the scale and the reference. So if this, imagine this image without this person, you cannot really tell how big is this waterfall. And if you place the person in, then you can have the reference how big is the waterfall is, because you always know how big the person is. And this one too. And this one just shot last year, last December in the Death Valley, in the Ibex Dunes. And this one of my friend, actually, she's shooting really close, walking really close to the sand dunes. I'm just using her as a reference to show how big the sand dune is. And this one as another contrast image. What contrast is it? Ancient? Oh, the ancient versus modern. So yeah, a lot of idea you can do with the so-called contrast theme. And another way is the show perspective. So this is one of the famous Palace of the Wind in India, and tourist spot. But how I approach it is I want to shoot it something different, and then like the snapshots like on the left. So I shooting up and also to the diagonal line, frame it as a diagonal lines, and also using a 10-stop ND filter to smooth the skies.
William, I have two questions for you.
Uh-huh.
What is, do you ever crop, and why or why not? And also, what's your preferred way to get closer? Do you walk closer or do you use a longer lens?
All right, first question. If I crop, yes, I do crop. I'm not the purist, but some people say, oh, you never should crop. No, I crop. It depends on. I'm not saying I'm lazy, not trying shooting, but in sometimes, some situations, you have no other choice. You have just shoot an image and then later crop it. I would do it. And for the second question, what's the second question?
What's your preferred way to get closer? Do you walk closer or do you use a longer lens?
Yes. If I can walk closer, I will walk closer. But in a lot of situations, I can't. I will use my, if I have a long lens with me, I will use it. It depends on the situation. If I can walk, of course I will walk. I will use the lens native, the shooting image as big as possible. But if it's not possible physically, then I will use my longest lens. Like in Palouse, a lot of times, you know, you cannot walk close enough. I know in Palouse, I cannot walk close enough standing on the butte. So I bring my 200 to 600 millimeter to shooting landscape images.
And just to let you know, we have about 10 more minutes.
Okay. next, what I like to show is all right, so photography is all about the chasing lights. So that's why I like the sunset and the sunlight, sunrise times. And like this one is in the Lofoten area in Norway. I love this area. That's why I go there almost every year. And the sunrise, right before the sunrise, you can see the village. In this village, the lights still on. With those lights on, they're adding lots of interest to the image. And also the light of the sunrise just hitting the slopes of those mountains and give it some kind of glow to make this image much more interesting than this one. This is like 20 minutes later. The light's off, the light is gone. So you compare this one with the previous image, you can really tell the previous image is much better. I really like this image. And this also talking about the light quality. See, to the left, that same lake in the early morning when the fog comes up, the mist comes from the water in the cold morning, it gives a different feeling than warm light to the right in the sunset time on this swamp. So the light quality differs a lot, give you different mood, different feelings. And this is in Myanmar. So a monk is sweeping in the early morning, by creating a lot of dust. But sometimes dust helps because when you shooting directly against the sun with those tree leaves between the sun and your lens, and you using a small aperture like f/16, you can create this kind of effect, like a sunstar burst, and like a sunburst, the sunlight burst through the leaves. Yeah, the key is using a small aperture like f/16 to shooting that. That give you a very nice visual effect. But same thing here. This is earlier in the afternoon, but still you have lots of dust in the air, but the sun is way too high in the sky and also nothing in between the sun and your lens. That's why the sun is, even I use f/16, the sun is still big. But generally, I like the effect of those smokes. It gives you a different kind of feeling.
How much time do you take to post-process?
Not many time. Just generally, I just first importing into the Lightroom and do some basic editing in the Lightroom. And then in some images, I may go into the Photoshop using Nik filters, and the other one is the Topaz denoise or sharpening, to do some sharpening, denoise, and a Nik filter I like to use to do some texture editing on like Color Effects Pro, and do some pro contrast editing. Adjust some colors in it. Yeah, that's about it. And this is the early morning in the Guilin, and with the fogs and the sun directly rising in front of the camera. So perfect reflections in the water. It's the golden reflections. These tiny little thing actually are boats in the river. And this is in Peru. This is a 5,000-meter high Rainbow Mountain in Peru. And I like those patchy lights in the late afternoon. Somehow they have the patchy lights come in and shining through those clouds into the mountains. I just love it. I love those patchy lights. This one is the early morning sunrise. They were one of the best sunrise spot in the mud flats area in the southern China. And this morning, I'm just so thankful we have a gorgeous sunrise. And I also like the shooting, the lights shooting, like these two images, the lights are going through the fishing nets. Very nice, warm light. But this one, yeah, this one is in the foggy day in the the Yellow Mountain in China, but they give you a totally different kind of mood, like a mystery mood. The very soft, very, very soft light on the peaks, and with layers, with the falls creating layers. And this one is in Palouse, and I use these barns and buildings as a foreground. Then the sunset light is very warm and soft, casting to the background, rolling hills. It's a very peaceful feeling. But this is one of the lights I encountered, you know, the sunlight's just peeking through the hole in the sky, and both shooting up and down those light rays in the Guilin area. And it's just beautiful. How can you not shooting it? And this is the open bridge in Myanmar, and the sun is just getting down. So for composition, I place the sun in between those poles, intentionally find a position to place here and not touching or behind those poles. So we're riding our boats around to find the perfect composition to shoot it. And this is one of the most coldest morning I ever had, at -35 centigrade. And the sun is rising, everything's cold. This guy is throwing the warm water into the sky, and the water instantly turning into ice particles, like an explosion. So I using the shutter speed to catch the moment. And this warm glow, this kind of cold glow in a cold day, and just running into the sky back to the village with his sheep. This is the Inle Lake in the early morning in a cold winter day, and the fog is rising from the lake, giving a very, very dreamy feel. So I composed this way into layers, you know, the first layer, second layer, then the villages in the background. And this is the Mona Lake, put the tufa in the foreground and the light painting it a little bit, and then the galaxy in the background. And this the nightlight, famous Aurora Borealis in Iceland. That Iceland. This is Norway. This is the barn, and this is the cabins we stay. That night is just gorgeous. The aurora rising right above our cabins. We just get out and shoot. Another thing is I like to return to the same area with different seasons. So this is in the winter. This is in the fall, the harvest season in August. This is the spring. And this is the May, the planting season. So I keep returning to the same area, catch the different scene, different activities. All right, so that's my presentation. And that's why if you want to know me more or you want to sign up to my tutorials or workshops, welcome. And my website is williamphotoworkshops.com. And thank you for spending your valuable time with me. And I wish I could inspire you to shoot more and shoot better. And the joy never ends. And photography is our passion. So let me know if you have questions or comments. You can go to this website and text me or email me. Thank you.
That was a great presentation, William. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I think it's a nice combination of presentation for our new members as well as our more experienced members. And that was a perfect hour of Photoshop 101 condensed down, I swear, probably a whole semester's worth. That was really good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to sharing this opportunity with you.
So we do have some quick questions for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. What you mentioned limiting your lenses to 3. Which of those do you use for street photography when you apply your adapted Sunny 16 rule?
24 to 70. Yeah, if you have a 24 to 70 lens, just set your lens to 35 millimeter. Or 28 millimeter if you want. So the traditional street photo, the lens is 35 millimeter. This their traditional way. So I like it. And so I usually just do 35 millimeter. If I carry my 24 to 70, I'll ask sometimes if I go to a location like India, I especially bring like a Fujifilm X100. This is this tiny, small camera and perfect for street, very low profile. It's fixed lens, 35 millimeter, just shooting street.
Okay, good. Any problems with your camera at 30 below zero?
No, actually, but yes, 30 below zero, because I'm lucky because in that area I go, they sell in the stores over there, they sell like a sticky hand warmer. So I put those sticky hand warmer onto the camera, onto the outside of the battery compartment. So I put those hand warmers onto the compartment, just outside it. Yeah, that make it perfect. So nothing happens. The battery works fine. But I don't know, because if I don't do that, maybe, I don't know. But I'm using Sony camera, but I never running into like a battery sitting dead or those things.
All right. All right, well, again, thank you. Thank you so much. And we're just going to have you back for another time in your drone shots, and maybe it'll be in person so we can take you to all those places that will be new for you up here.
Sure, I love to. I love to shooting with you, you people. So I love to coming down to your area to find some new locations to shoot with you.
Great. All right, Rachel, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll ask William, would you mind stop sharing on your screen?
Okay, all right.
You have a great eye, William. Very nice.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Just fantastic. All right, well, we are going to take a break now. Let's see, it is 7:40. So I'm going to say I want folks back about no later than 7:50. We'll do a 10-minute break, stand up, stretch your legs, get something to drink. And then when we come back, I'll announce the winners of the January best favorite photos by category, and then we will move into the critique. So folks are welcome to stay and visit if you want. I'm gonna stand up and stretch my legs, and I'll leave this window open for everybody. All right, see you no later than 7:50.
William,
yeah.
Did you have any trouble with bringing your drone to any of those places?
It depends on Iceland, no trouble at all. Norway, only in some area, remote area of fly. But
how about China?
Oh, China, you can't. Don't fly in the cities. Just because the area I travel to are most rural area.
Yeah, the rice field areas.
You can no problem at all.
No trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem at all. And Bolivia, you can't. Yeah, you cannot bring the drone there. Peru, no.
So you have a small one or a larger one, or which drone do you use?
I used to use the Mavic 1. Now I just bought a Mavic 3.
Yeah.
So I haven't flied the Mavic 3 yet. I needed some practice. But I find Mavic.
It's a great drone.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it, I think, with me to.
Yeah, I see the
Ireland.
Image.
Scotland. So.
The only country totally banned the drone is Sweden. You just totally illegal fly anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Which drone do you have, David?
I have the Mavic 3.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Well, we didn't even give William a chance to get into his drone photography. We'll just have to have him come back.
Well, because next month I'm gonna fly a lot in Utah Badlands, so I will have a lot of photos then.
Oh, great. Okay, super. I'll keep that in mind. But hopefully you'll be able to come up and visit us then after that. So.
I will. Let's keep in touch.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, so I gotta go. So
All righty. Well,
thank
thank you
you
so
very much.
much. It was great talking to you and meeting you.
yeah,
Thank
nice
you,
meeting
William.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Okay,
Very
bye-bye.
enjoyable.
Bye. So David, you've never heard of William?
I know, I didn't know him. He has a very good eye. I enjoyed his images quite a bit.
Yeah. I like how he was able to pack a lot of photography 101 information into his illustrations. I like that a lot. I think it helps people understand the concepts that we're always talking about.
Hey, David,
Hey,
did
Bill.
you ever get your printer figured out?
No, I'm gonna have to, I'm reinstalling it. So Ellen, I might be late because I had to redo my print and my printer driver, for some reason, I switched OSs. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm stuck in nowhere land. I have to redo my print. So I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
in trouble. So Lillian Guerrero, are you still around?
I think she just took off. That was the
Is that the-
NU photo called president.
Oh, okay,
She
great.
came in a little late, but watched the whole presentation. So.
Oh, good, good, good. I'll be interested if you talk with her to see how she enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll try to get their take.
Good.
Which is a good point.
I'm thinking of going back to NU this week and go help out there. They're pretty. They got a new photo teacher since David Arnold was there a few years ago when I was there, and the new teacher she seems pretty swamped. She seems like she's taken on a lot. She's got almost 300 students
Holy
of
cow.
photo
Are
kids.
they really all photography, Michael?
Yeah,
That's
eight periods of photo.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
That's wonderful.
It is, but it also, I think, is maybe a symptom of not enough electives at NU offered. So I
Oh,
think there's, a low percentage of those are actually interested in photography. So it's tricky. It's a tricky balance.
How many
But-
students are at NU in a class? How many?
Like a year,
Like a year, like a juniors, how many juniors?
right? 300-400.
Or 400? Okay. So pretty good size, really.
Yeah.
When I graduated, I think there were 700 or 800 kids in my class.
Really?
Okay.
There were a lot fewer high school options at the time, and so NU had it was a huge population. And the day I graduated, I was still meeting people that I'd never seen before. Who are you? Congratulations, but who are you?
Yeah, we were down to like 1,700 total when I was there,
Wow.
and I bet it's a little less even now.
where did all those people go?
Yeah.
A lot of charter options now,
Yeah.
more alternative options.
So is William going to stay with us, Kathy? He may be.
No, he left. He left
Did he?
already.
Okay.
And we have almost 70 images.
Oh, a lot. Okay.
Yeah, so I know that Chris and Douglas know, but we're gonna have to zip along tonight.
Okay. All right. We've had that many before. We just keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I am so pleased to see that many, and so many are from newer members.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good turnout. I saw 67 on his presentation.
yes, 67, woohoo.
That's really nice.
I'm sure that the students from NU probably helped that.
I think it was just the one. But
Oh, Well, we're
but
going-
maybe she'll be able to convince some more next time. So
Yeah, well, we'll be on Zoom for a couple more months and then we'll be in person. So it would be great to see them there too.
yeah, I was gonna let them know about the Bridgeport field trip. That would be an easy one for them to join if any of them were interested. But
Super.
maybe that might be during school, but
Yeah, because it's a Thursday.
these days, who knows how much school is happening? So
Oh, God.
the day I went, Wednesday, was the day that like half the teachers were out.
Oh, because they closed the school, didn't they? Wasn't that on the news? They-
Thursday and Friday they closed the school, but
Yeah,
Wednesday was
yeah.
like the first strike day, and everybody was just like, "What?" Like,
Wow.
David, I love
Kathy,
that.
how did you find William again?
He spoke, I still belong to the PSA, the Photographic Society of America.
Mhm.
And I always try and get on to their webinars to scout out people for us. And he was one of the speakers and I loved what he had to share.
Yeah, he had some very, very nice imagery in his seeing the light.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think so. And such a wonderful variety. I mean, from all over the world too.
Mhm.
So I like that a lot. And I like the fact that he touched on street photography a little bit.
Mhm.
I've been trying to find somebody just to talk about street photography for us. I think there's an interest. So that was enough to whet our palettes on that one and get a little more into it later.
And we didn't ask a lot of questions about it, but he's definitely in the camp of sneak and take a true candid. And we didn't even ask if he talks to the people afterwards.
Yeah, you're right. That's the Rachel Rosenthal method.
Well, you can't. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, yeah. It's called stealth mode. That's what I call it too. That,
And that's more acceptable in some cultures and less in others.
yeah, true. All right, it's almost 7:50. We're pretty darn close. All right, I'm going to get queued up here. It is 7:50. So folks, we're going to get started for the second half of this evening's meeting. And I'm going to start with announcing the winners of January's photo category. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys and go through and show you the winning images. All right, let me get, there we go. Can you guys see our club's webpage?
Yes.
Okay, so these are images submitted in January and they were that went through the critique, and then our club members voted on their favorites from each of the categories. So I'm going to go through here. So January, the assigned subject was abandon. And congratulations to the winner. This is entitled Hair Salon During Early COVID by Ingrid Lockhart. Good title. Best Abstract, entitled When Reality Seems Abstract by Tom Quinn. Best Architecture, Nevada City Surprise by Jim Bear. Best Fauna, Manta in the Maldives by Mark Davis. Best Flora, For My Valentine by Suzanne Hambleton. Best Natural Landscape, A New Day at Lake Francis by Jonathan Beck. Best Night Photography, entitled Overlooking Telluride by Michael Quinn. Best People, entitled Christina by Mike Shea. Best Photojournalism, PG&E Working on Restoring Power, December 28th, 2021 by Douglas Hooper. Best Creative Fantasy, entitled Anything Goes, Here in the Black by Ellen Davis. Best Black and White, entitled Seaside Creek Beach by Dave McClellan. Best Color, Fiesta de las Flores, Otavalo, Ecuador. Hope I said that right. The artist is Ann Westling. And that brings us back to the assigned subject. So congratulations, everybody. Beautifully done. And now we're going to move back to this month. I'm going to stop my share. And now I'm going to turn it back to Kathy to kick off the critique.
All righty, I am going to share my screen in 1 minute. Soon as I get that going, okay. Hold on. Let me share right here. There we go. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. All right, assigned subject is humor. And this one is Kuan Yin Rocks. Over to you, Douglas or Chris.
Yes, me. And just to say in general, it's really funny critiquing humor, but here we go. This is great. Sunglasses on an ancient statue is really fun. I got a really cool effect from first looking at this picture. The stone's cool, water's cool, and then the sunglasses are cool. The horizon is slightly slanted, and since this is humor, I thought it'd be fun to slant it more and make it more playful that way. And I'm a little ambivalent about the dead centering of the subject. I might have gone off to the side a little more to make that more playful. But I'd say a successful picture. Cool.
All right. And the maker is Lucy Tatro. All right, this is Aliens.
I love the simplicity and the abstraction of this image. The thing that really makes this image work for me is the juxtaposition of the meter and the shadow. At first glance, one expects the shadow to be cast by the meter, but it's a surprise that the double hump shadow is coming from another different meter that is out of the frame. I also love the offset composition that groups the elements into the middle and the right side of the frame, with only the thin shadow of the post leading off to the left. Excellent composition and execution.
And the photographer is Ray Lurkey. This is Feathers in His Cap.
Very successful humor picture. Well composed, nice lighting, well thought out. I don't have any criticisms of this one. I think it's a great, fun picture. It is interesting. The flash went off to the right side of the camera, so you have that line around. That's just a little technical detail that I noticed, but other than that, who cares? Cool picture, fun.
And the photographer is Ed Sylvester. This is Smiling Buick.
This is a more challenging image to capture than it looks. The photographer wanted to show the smiling grill of the car to fit with the assigned subject, but should they compose the image close in like they did, or take a step or two back? If further back, then maybe the other cars around this one would distract from the intent. I think the choice to be in our face is a good one, and it enhances the toothiness of the photo. Although the photographer didn't have much of a choice, it's a good general example of how any words or letters, like the license plate in an image, tend to stand out, even if it's unintentional. Thanks for sharing.
And the photographer is Jeff Alstetter. And this is Charlie's.
So this one has a hilarious sign, and that's what carries the photo. And then the photographer, I'm wondering if you were grabbing this out of part of another photo, the focus got lost somewhere along the way. And then it's cool that the mannequin and the boots support the idea of the sign. So that's all cool. That was well thought out and put together. The out of focus is the biggest problem. And then the sepia went pretty red. You might want to get that sepia to a little more of a yellow brown tone. But the sign is definitely something to laugh at. Good job.
And the photographer is Gary Kartstaffner, and that ends humor. Doesn't mean you can't laugh. Now we're in abstract. And the first image is Cracked Mud.
I like the otherworldly feel of this image with this unexpected colors that almost give it a volcanic impression. Somehow the photographer has removed the third dimension, and as our eyes move to the top of the image, we expect distance, but find the alien landscape almost wrapping back around on top of us. This image does what abstract images should do, take us to a different world to explore. Well done.
And the photographer is Jay Schuff. This next image is Agate Micrograph 2.
There's been a number of these agate pictures popping up in these critiques, and I love them all. This is yet another good example of an excellent photo. It's well thought out. The composition is very important to get right in these types of photos, and this photographer is doing a great job with this. When I first saw this picture, the orange and yellow popped out at me as almost unreal. If Mother Nature did this, which is quite possible, then it's just an amazing picture. If you did saturate a little, I might tone it down just slightly if that's not really what you saw, but that's a funny contradiction I'm presenting you with. Overall, I think this is a really successful picture. I love it.
And the photographer is Daniel Chaplin. Get back here. All right, this is Bishop Creek Abstract.
This is another excellent abstract image. It also takes 3 dimension and reduces them to 2 in an interesting and insightful way. I love the scratchiness of the textures and the pleasing yellow gold that drapes across the middle. I found that my eyes could explore this image for a long time without finding anything specific, but instead finding movement and multitudes. Beautiful.
And the artist is George Pelpel. Now we are in architecture, and the first image is for Cheryl Design Interiors, San Francisco.
Okay, so to preface my comments on this, this picture strikes me as really being about the red chair and its contents, and then maybe about the candles. I don't feel like it's that much of an architecture picture, but taking it from there, architecturally speaking, the photographer did go to the trouble to straighten all the verticals, and that makes this picture look really nice, really put together well and organized and pleasing. The composition, I'm a little feeling funny about the candles at the left edge. I think I would have either cropped them out entirely or included more space to the left of them. Other than that, I think it's a very pleasing, engaging picture that could easily run in an interior design magazine.
And the maker is Shelby Cohen. This is Peterson Auto Museum, Los Angeles.
I like how the waves of the building mirror the waves of clouds in the sky, and the architecture that the photographer has captured is unique and interesting. There are a few ways a photographer might improve the composition and focus of the image. The stoplight and construction barriers in the lower right, to my eye, distract from the image, so I suggest cropping about 25% off the right side and maybe cropping a little off the left too. This will put the focus on the middle of the building with the almost symmetric stoplight poles providing balance. I'd also suggest vignetting a little more or a little, if it hasn't been done, to darken the bright foreground cement and the sky and put more focus on the building. Overall, a very nice image.
And the photographer is Jerry Thomas. This next image is Nevada County Hospital, main house.
Well, here's a more traditional architecture picture. This is definitely an architecture picture. It has a real feeling of being run down and tired and old. The black and white adds to that. I think black and white was a good choice. The electrical conduit on the right side of the building sagging down. That may have been installed that way, but it makes it look even more tired now. The contrast range is a little flat. I like the way the shadows underneath the front awning area are still have good detail, but I might have punched up the contrast a little bit more than this. And everything else is really in place. I think it's a successful picture.
The photographer is Jeff Ulstetter. This next image is inside the Church of the Cross.
This is a very challenging image to capture, given the interior darkness and the bright light through the windows, and the photographer did a good job of finding a balance between the two. I think the image is having a hard time deciding what it is about. The top half is architecture, but the bottom half is about people looking at something that is not in the frame. There's a cross in the image, but it's lost against the background. I have to admit that I struggled a bit to find much for my eyes to focus on compositionally or elementally, and I would encourage the photographer to look over other shots they may have of the scene for alternate compositions and framing. Thanks for sharing.
And the maker is Jonathan Beff, and this is just a reminder that if you sign your images, take them off before you submit them to us, because you gave it away. So, Now on to the next one. This is Morocco Sprawl.
So this is still in the architecture section, and this contains architecture. It's not really about the architecture though. So again, I might put this in the color category. But going beyond that, this is a very striking image. I love the dark foreground and the sunlit buildings and then the kind of dark sky. I find that very pleasing to my eye. As far as comments about if I would change anything, I would actually have cropped it below all the clouds. The clouds don't add anything for me. And I think you would do better with just a long panoramic of just the darker blue sky and the sunlit buildings. That would emphasize the buildings more. But you've got a really cool picture to work with. This is pretty striking.
And the photographer is Jay Schuff. And this is This Way to the Getty Museum.
This photograph is a compositional feast for the eye, pun intended. The photographer carefully chose what to include and what to exclude and juxtaposes man-raised slice of face with the architectural elements of the museum. The included arrow in the upper right is a touch of genius, pointing to the center and balancing the lines of the banister. And the creeping vines mirroring the mascara eyelashes is more genius, or perhaps serendipity. The sepia organics of the human face and droplets are starkly opposed to the black and white Cartesian grid of the windows. I'm entranced by this photo and in love with it. Thank you.
And that will make the maker very happy, and that is Jim Bear. That concludes architecture. We're now on the fauna category, and our first image is New Day at the Negev crater.
This is a stunning photo. The lighting is right. The sun backlighting, the front glow, the focus, the depth of field, the composition, everything is just so nice with this picture. I have no constructive criticisms for this. I just enjoy this picture. It's just so beautiful.
And the maker is Jonathan Beth. This is Juvenile Condor at the Pinnacles.
Wow, what a great photo. Not just of a condor, which are challenging subjects, but of any bird. The close framing gives me the feeling that the condor is flying out of my screen, and the capture of the rotated head really takes the image to the next level. The diagonal composition of the wings is excellent, and I love the streaks of white in the body feathers, almost like moving water. The detail on the glowing feathers under the wings and the feet on a diagonal with the head add more interesting elements. I'm going out on a limb, and I'll say this is the best condor image I've ever seen. Magnificent.
All right. And that happy photographer should be Daniel Chaplin. This is Bosque del Apache Sandhill Cranes.
This is a good capture of Sandhill Cranes. It's composed very nicely. The photographer has the sun behind themselves, lighting the birds really nicely. And that's a cool looking shadow on the front bird of the bird's head against its left wing. I like that. The bird in the back is a little soft. Unfortunately, it's too bad they couldn't be both in crystal focus, but you needed to do some of that to drop the background into softness. So there's always striking a balance, but the action is good too. It's got kind of got a left to right read where the bird on the left is getting ready and the one in the middle is doing what that bird's about to do. So I like that aspect of it too. Nice.
And the maker is Bernadette Sylvester. This is Duck Walk in the Sweet Light.
The early morning or maybe late evening light on these geese is indeed sweet, and the framing of the birds is an effective composition. The birds are both in sharp focus, and the orange of the bills and feet provide a nice contrast of color with the brown and gray feathers. One of the birds is watching the photographer, and that engages us more with the image. The raised feet also imply motion. This is a good close capture of animals in motion.
And the photographer is Shelby Cohen. This one is titled DSC 1531.
Well, nice title. This is just a really striking photo, very powerful. It really gets an effect out of me. There's a shadow across the crocodile's head that's a little unfortunate, but it doesn't take away the pic from the picture very much for me. I really get to experience that crocodile grin that almost looks engaging, and then you scan across and you see those teeth, and then it looks sinister. So I really get a lot of that experience out of this picture. The lighting's good. The depth of focus was really well chosen. So this is a really well done picture. Nice job.
And the maker is Dave Connell. This is a hornet's nest. Anyone home?
The photographer nicely composes this nest with the tree branches and used a shallow depth of field to separate the subject from the leafy background. The inclusion of the orifices in the nest gives the image an extra level of interest as they let us more easily imagine what might live within. It's easy to see that the image suffers from graininess due to low light conditions or maybe a small crop of a larger image, but either way, the image is still compelling.
And that maker is Dave Connell. This one is Sunrise Departure.
This is a pretty cool photo. It's got intriguing lighting. First of all, I love the bird in the foreground in focus and the three in the background out of focus. That's very pleasing. The composition, I liked it at first, but as I looked at it more, I decided I would crop that shadow out of the bottom and make this more of a panoramic. Just a tiny hair off the top as well. And I'm curious about the lighting. There's light hitting the front of the bird on its front left half and not on the back half. And it makes it very curious looking to me, very intriguing. So I'm curious about that lighting. Other than that, that's a cool picture. It's got a lot of nice elements to it.
And the maker is Brian Dunbar. This is My First Hawk.
Although one could wish for fewer branches in between, the photographer captured the hawk in sharp focus. I love the light in the corner of the black eye of the bird, and the photographer has chosen a skillful composition of the hawk next to the tree trunk. The out of focus fuzziness along the right edge of the photo is a little bit distracting to me, and I'd suggest cropping a little off the right side to eliminate it. This is a great little image, especially since it's a first for the photographer.
And the photographer is Sheila Ryan Weintraub. This is Rub-a-dub-dub.
This photo at first glance is really intriguing because of all the water droplets in there and the very three-dimensional feel of it. As I kept searching, I wanted to read more of the duck. I don't see its eye. I'm wondering if fill flash was used. A lot of the droplets look like they have a little shadow behind them, which is kind of intriguing. So I like all the striations in the water. I just wish I could have seen a little more of the duck's head clearly. He's probably shaking his head really quickly, and the photographer did a great job even to catch this much. And I think there's water streaming off of the duck too. It does make a very unique duck photo. So you accomplished that for sure.
And the photographer is Jimmy Marchio. This is Winging It.
This is one of those images with a composition so fleeting and serendipitous that in the age of Photoshop, one gets suspicious. Since it's in this category and taking the photo at face value, this is a fantastic moment of capture. The variety of wing positions in the halo of what I'm guessing are blackbirds is superb, and the contrast of size and tonality between the crane and the flock around it make this a truly exceptional image. Well done.
And the photographer is Ed Sylvester. And the last one in fauna is Lone Wolf.
This is a spectacular wolf photo. The cloudy lighting just lit up this wolf beautifully. I really have the feeling I'm there with this wolf. It's a very close experience photo. I like that. I might have cropped, the photographer went for some pretty unique composition and cropping, which gives it a cool feeling. I might have taken still a little bit more off the left. I go for a little more balance than that. That's the only constructive criticism I could come up with. This is a really spectacular photo.
And this photo is by Ellen Davis. It ends fauna. Now we're into flora. And the first one is Conservatory Anthurium.
This image is a good example of beauty in simplicity. Several aspects of this picture work together, including the surprising red on green of the leaf, or is it a petal, and the heart-like shape of it, and the texture added by the water droplets. The inclusion of just a little bit of background gives the picture depth and interest, although at least on my monitor, just a little bit more detail in the background might improve this already nice image.
And the photographer is Mike Shea. This is pre-emergence.
Oh, beautifully done. Focusing in on a fern leaf that is yet to be, and then in the background, you see fern leaves that are already mature and the color that they will be. This is a beautiful photo. The focus is very good throughout the important areas and very soft in the areas that are supporting cast, not the central subject of this picture. I love the overall cool feeling of it. No constructive criticisms. I think it was done perfectly. Nice job.
And this photo is by Suzanne Hamilton. Next one is Intricate Flora 2.
The inclusion of 3 bunches of blooms along with some of their stems makes for a good composition in this photograph. The shallow depth of field effectively separates the blooms from the background, and the colors of the blooms resonate with the colors of the background. This picture feels a little too warm and a little too saturated for me, and I found that by adjusting the temperature slider in Lightroom to make it cooler and reducing saturation a little, the image was a little more attractive to me. But overall, a nice image. Thanks for sharing.
The photographer is Jim Bear. And this is Lilies with Visitors.
Very striking image. Boy, this one is almost more graphic than photographic, with the beautiful sunlit foreground flowers in a very dark background. And to capture 2 butterflies visiting, that's just wonderful. The stem going out the bottom, I like that you can mostly see the stem. I think if I could have seen a tiny bit more of it, that completes the picture for me. And you guys can't see this way this is displayed now. It's a slightly horizontal picture. And I think I would go just completely square and bring in the sides a tiny bit. Those are the criticisms I could even come up with. This is a very successful picture.
And the photographer is Tom Quinn. That ends Flora. And now we are in natural landscape with Blue Ridge Parkway.
This is a wonderful capture of a classic scene of ridgelines fading into the distance. The inclusion of the full black closest ridge was a great choice, as it gives a solid tonal foundation to the gradually lightening ridges as the eye explores the frame. The composition is also excellent, although I tried cropping 20% off the top of the image and found that it made for an even better composition, in my opinion. A very fine photograph.
The photographer is Fred Finney. And this one is Picacho SRA.
I love the color range, the very yellow mountains and the blue sky, even some gray back there, but it just is all supports the color range. And then the shaded foliage in the foreground is beautiful. I like this one because of the warmth of the soil and the rocks. It just really works well for me. The one constructive criticism I thought I might offer is cropping a little bit off the left. There's not a lot there that supports the rest of the picture. And for me, that balances out the picture overall. It's mostly high peaks and then it kind of drops off. And if that's cropped out a little, to me, that's a better balance. And again, that's the only criticism I could come up with. I think everything else is really successful in this image.
And the photographer is Jimmy Marchio. This is Pistachio Orchard.
I love how this photograph transitions from man-made order on the bottom to chaotic branches in the middle, and then back to the natural order of ridges at the top. The transition from trees to hills is set at the 50% point of the frame, which also exaggerates that transition. I found that adding vignetting improved the image to my eye, and I also believe that the photo is slightly tilted to the right off of level, but that could have been an artistic choice by the photographer. Nice capture.
The photographer is Jerry Thomas. This is Castle in the Clouds, New Hampshire.
This is a beautiful long exposure of a little stream going through the woods. This photographer did an amazing job at capturing sunlight passing through the trees. The dappled sunshine and shadow somehow was handled really well in this picture. And it makes it very striking, very engaging. And again, searching for any criticism I can offer, I would again crop just a little, again, because the last picture doesn't relate to this one, crop a little bit off the left, getting closer to that lower pool. For me, that balances out because the white areas are the main points of interest. And for me, they're shifted a little too much to the right. It makes it feel slightly out of balance. But that, again, are tiny criticisms. What a beautiful picture this is.
And this beautiful picture was made by Rachel Rosenthal. This next image is set, if I can get there, hold on. Okay, Sutter Buttes.
The photographer of this glowing scene made some good compositional choices. The almost panoramic framing captured the full ridgeline of the buttes, and placing the horizon line in the lower part of the image still showed the reflection while leaving room above the peaks to give them a greater sense of height. It also looks like the photographer used vignetting effectively to keep our focus in the center of the image. About all the photographer might have hoped for are more clouds in the sky. Thanks for bringing this glowing morning to us.
And the photographer is Sheila Ryan Weintraub. This is sun rising behind Cyclos Arch, Alabama Hills.
Very nice picture. I love, again, the color palette of it, to rich yellows and oranges. Again, looking for balance, I would crop a little bit off the right. It feels, I know you put the sun over there to try to get into the rule of thirds. I don't think I would make that my primary reason for composition. I would take a little bit off the right, and it gives me an overall feeling of balance to the whole thing. And then the color of the very front rock is kind of blue and pale in the middle and kind of dark and orange on the side. And that may be Mother Nature, but if that was Photoshopping, I would try to balance that out a little bit. So those are the two comments on a very nice picture. I like this one too.
And the photographer is George Pelpel. This is Cascades Evening Light.
There are several engaging elements in this image that the photographer captured well. The long, but not too long exposure made for good texture and motion in the water of the falls, and the nice orange glow up the canyon is a good contrast to the relative monochrome of the rest of the image. To my eye, there is almost too much water, and the golden glow gets diminished in the upper corner. I tried cropping quite a bit off the left and off the bottom, and I thought that it gave it an improved composition and gave the glow in the upper canyon and its reflection their rightful prominence in the photo. Nice shot.
The photographer is Henry Goodman. This is Ibis in Golden Light.
So I think this must be the same photographer that last month also put in a landscape that was upside down. The critic last month didn't comment on it. This one's more clearly upside down. And I think it's fun. Our rules don't address this. They don't say you can or can't do this, so go for it. I think it's a nice composition, and it looks intriguing because it is a reflection in water. And I like the birds as details. I think, again, that just really adds to the composition. I would spot out that one white feather, whatever it is, floating in the dark shadow of the tree. That's a little distracting for me. I think everything else is pretty darn successful about this picture. It's fun.
And the fun photographer is Eleni Prusa. Now we are in night photography. The first image is Moonlit Headlands.
This photograph shows outstanding composition, execution, and post-processing. The placement of the moon, the arch, and the waves in the frame is superb. The exposure to capture the sunburst moon, along with the stars and the details in the shadows, shows skill and experience. The timing of the shutter to capture the lace of the waves on the beach is perfect. Note the use of heavy vignetting to not only help with the nighttime feel, but to keep our eyes on the important elements in the center of the photo. The sprinkle of stardust in the lower right, which might be lens flare from the moon reflection in the water, is a bit of serendipitous magic. This is a magnificent photo.
And the photographer is Eric Engels. This image is titled From the Shadows.
Another beautiful night shot. This is so well done. I've done full moon pictures, and if you don't do them right, it just looks like a daytime shot. This photographer handled it really well, just got everything dialed in perfectly. To get the night sky, that amount of darkness and no more. The stars are in focus enough to be a successful picture. The mountains are completely in focus, and the mountains are lit, but not entirely. They still have a little bit of a dark feeling to them. I think the photographer got that just right. The composition is good. Everything is put together well with this. I have no constructive criticisms for this one.
And I apologize, the name of that is In the Midnight Moonlight. So that was not From the Shadows. So the maker is Tom Quinn. Now we will get back on track. And this one is called From the Shadows.
This photo is a good class in lighting for nighttime photography. Note the backlighting that reflects under the car and the side lights to show the contours of the vehicle. The choice was made to turn on the dome light of the car, or maybe some other lighting inside the car, to show the interior. And this gives a warm glow to give color contrast with the cold blue of the exterior lighting. I can't help but feel that there is a lost opportunity to tell more of a story here, perhaps with ghostly figures seated in the car or objects on the pavement in front of the car. But maybe I just get to do that with my imagination, and that's the intent of the photographer. Thanks for sharing.
And the photographer is Douglas Hooper. This is Sky Glow and Milky Way over Mona Lake, South Beach.
Quite a spectacular picture. The pink and green are kind of a surprise, but who knows? That's cool. I like it. The foreground is gorgeous. The lighting is nice. I really like the way this all came together. The rock in the lower right, the light areas of that are a little too bright for me. My attention goes down there. If that could be toned down to be no brighter than the tops of the towers, I think the composition ties together better that way. There's the white edge down that edge, the right edge of the picture. That'll need to be corrected. And for those of you, if you've tried it through cropping, it can be touchy, but if you try it through reducing canvas size, you can just take off like 2 pixels and it's beautiful. So that's a good way to get that line out. Yeah, beautiful picture. I like this one. I like the choice of a square, almost square image too.
And the maker is Frank Blocksberg. And now we're into people. And the first image is Water Whistle.
This photo is not only compositionally excellent, but it captures a wonderful human interaction between the brothers or buddies. Note the upper third with the spouting, almost smiling lips juxtaposed against the splashes and the boys in the lower third. The bricks of the background are also a fine backdrop for the curves of falling and splashed water. Somehow the water is streaked like it was a long exposure, but the boys are in sharp focus. I suspect smartphone wizardry, but I'm hoping it was the skills of the photographer. Very nice.
And the photographer is Rachel Rosenthal. This is Marcus on the River.
Okay, well, this is how a good people picture is done. This is a very nice picture. The light up underneath the rim of the hat is nice. The smile, the focus, the depth of field, black and white treatment is good. I like that. This is really well done. And again, if I were doing this, I would crop a little bit off the right because of the space between the hat brim and the right or the left edge of the picture being that close. I feel like the space on the right is a little too big. That's the only constructive criticism. This is a really well done people picture.
And the maker is Chris Schiller. This is Dalmatian Crew.
The photographer captured a fascinating study in multi-species sociology. The uniqueness of personal choices is overlaid on the conformity of clothing, colors, and costumes. Social media consciousness is evident in the posing of some of the people. There is also the colors of the halos and what they might mean or not mean. And amongst it all, the obliviousness of the dogs, who also conform in coats but not personalities, and interact and display on completely different levels. Here are so many stories all put together in one image.
And the maker is Kathy Triolo. This is A Sparkle in His Eye.
Another great people picture. And I could tell by the image numbers, this is now, I know Chris is also. I would actually cut off the top of the hat about halfway through. That's For me, would raise the face up in the picture, and I'd like to see a tiny bit more below his chin. And again, a spectacular people picture, and that's the only criticisms I could think of. Another comment is I like the way the glasses reflection is there, but doesn't spoil the view of his eyes. So this is a great people picture.
And as you said, it is by Chris Schiller. Next is photojournalism. The first image is Sunny Side Up.
The photographer did a good job of exposing the image in challenging lighting conditions and captured a kitchen in the middle of a breakfast rush. Since this is photojournalism, it's more about capturing a reality than art, and what I see is a perhaps weary but focused cook with a lot of work left to do. I might have hoped for the photographer to take a small step to the left so that the face of the man behind the cook in the foreground could be seen more, and this might have also given more interesting elements in the left side of the frame, or maybe taking a big step left so that the seated people were positioned between the two cooks, if that was possible. Overall, a nice photojournalism image. Thanks.
And the maker is Mike Shea. Next image is CX World's Dutch Women off the front.
This is a really cool action photo. The photographer did a great job getting the exposure just right, so you see both sides of the women's faces. I think the message I have for this photographer is, let's make a decision. If the picture is about the woman in the middle, let's crop off a little more of the woman in front and really tell the story of the woman in the middle. Or if it's about all three of them, then I think the front woman's right hand should be entirely included in the frame. The photographer gave me a clue by having all three of them in focus. So I think we do need to see the front woman's right hand. So those are my criticisms. I think it's a really cool action shot. Nicely done.
And the photographer is John Sievert. Now we are in the travel category, and the first one is Morning Surf in Encinitas.
I love the black and white treatment of this photo, which strips it back to its basic elements. Notice how your eye tracks from surfer to seabird to palm tree, around and around in a circle. The empty spaces accentuate the overall feeling of lonely starkness, and the slow misty fade into fog provides an excellent backdrop for the high contrast foreground elements. It looks like the photographer might have used vignetting, but I tried quite a bit more, and I thought that it might improve an already superb image.
And the maker is Grace Farrig. This is Ronda, Spain.
This photo is beautiful, and it made me realize we kind of think of travel photos as being documentary photos. This one's more beautiful than it is documentary, but I love it. This is one of my favorite pictures out of all of the evening. I love the composition. I love the way it's all put together. I love the color palette, the range, the exposure. I don't have any constructive criticisms of this one. I love the way this picture came together. Nice job.
And the photographer is Michael Quinn. This next image is Cook Islands.
This photograph is compositionally hitting on all cylinders. The plants frame both lower corners and fronds framed from above. The palm-studded island is nicely offset, and the clouds are so graciously cooperating to fill the sky spaces and add nice color and tonality. The plant in the lower left has a lot of color noise and luminance noise that could be easily improved with any of the common post-processing tools. And I found that the blown out highlights in the upper clouds could be made less distracting by cropping just a little bit off the top while still retaining the framing of the fronds coming from above. What a great postcard from paradise.
And the maker is Gary Kartstaffner. We are now heading into creative fantasy, anything goes. And the first one is, oh, I love orchids.
This is a really well done picture. Somebody spent some time in post-processing, did a great job putting the frame on and having the leaves sometimes go outside the frame and sometimes inside the frame, or I should say behind and in front of the frame. Same with the flowers. It's a very pleasing image. I don't have any constructive criticisms of it. I think it came together very nicely.
And the photographer is Suzanne Hamilton. Now we are in black and white. The first one is Wind.
Every month, I look forward with anticipation to the black and white category, and images like this are the reason. The photographer ensured that the rich blacks of the lower left balance the bright clouds of the upper right, and this makes for a compelling composition. The man-made turbans look almost natural in their random locations when seen through the clouds. I'm not sure if the graininess of the photo was a choice or just a consequence of low resolution, but it works to give the photo a dreamlike quality, almost like a memory. Very nice.
And the photographer is Michael Quinn. This is Mount Shasta in winter.
Beautiful, lovely use of handling of the contrast range. It's one of the prettier pictures I've seen of Mount Shasta, nicely done. And the highlights are controlled and you got enough clouds to have a sky and make it interesting. Speaking of the clouds, I decided and again, a balance. I like to feel the pictures are balanced, and this one is quite balanced, but where I'm going is this upper left-hand cloud. I would take it out actually by coming in from the left rather from the top. I think just getting that one cloud out of there is going to make the picture better. Maybe taking just a hair off the right side to balance out the cropping on the left side. And again, small criticisms for a very successful picture. I like this one a lot. The shadows in the foreground all have detail in them. In some screens, I almost wish they had a few more blacks in them, but tiny comments on a great picture.
And the photographer is Eric Engels. This is Hard Turn.
The photographer captured an engaging moment of horsemanship or horsewomanship. I love how the rider's right hand is light upon the rein in the precision that is shown by the extended pinky. There is the power of the horse's muscles and the recognition of cutting it close by the rider. The choice of black and white makes the brightly lit background less distracting and keeps us focused on the horse and rider. I think the bottom 20% of the image only serves to distance us from the essential elements of the photo. So I found that cropping off the bottom and a little off the top brought us closer to the action and made for a better composition with the horse, rider, and roof beam on a diagonal. Here's hoping the barrel didn't tip over.
And the photographer is Grace Farrig. This is black and white faced ibis.
This is a very intriguing image. It's the bird coming in for a landing has the ruffled feathers. It looks like he might even crash into the tree there. And they're backlit, so they're silhouettes. That's we don't see that as often with the wild bird photography that comes through the Camera Club. So I'm very fascinated by the four birds in the back. The fifth bird that's down here in the lower right, unfortunately, was kind of there to mess up the picture. It's too bad you had to deal with that one. I still would have put the picture in because the back four birds are so amazing. So nice job handling the picture as best you could. It's pretty interesting with the flying and the stationary birds.
And the photographer is Frank Blocksberg. This is The North Face.
The photographer used composition and post-processing to make a stunning mountain and glacier image. The contrast is raised up the perfect amount to accentuate the ice and earth. It also looks like burning and dodging or vignetting was used to bring out the shadows and tame the highlights. This is the kind of image that black and white was made for. I love the bright sunspots on the glacier that add a light texture to the dark bergstrungs and crevasses. I could stare at this image a long time. Very well done.
And the maker is Ellen Davis. This is Long Hot Walk.
This is an interesting photo. It's got people in the foreground. That's what I found when I viewed this picture. As I found myself going from person to person and seeing what each person was doing. And then they go way off in the distance into tiny little specks, which is pretty cool. I think even though that back line looks like it should be the horizon, it's not level. I don't think that's the case. I think that's the plane of the picture, and it's actually supposed to be slanted because the signposts look like they're perfectly vertical. So yeah, nice photo, nice black and white treatment of a scene you don't see very often.
And the maker is Kathy Triolo. This is Sea Ranch Morning Light.
This is another admirable example of black and white photography. The composition is outstanding and the timing of the shot is impeccable with the sunlight on the rolling waves. Even the clouds cooperated to add texture and interest in the sky. While high contrast has already been effectively used, I might encourage the photographer to go up another notch or two. The sky also feels a little too bright to me, and the photographer might use Lightroom sliders to take the blue down, burning, or even vignetting to darken it and see if this already pleasing image might be improved.
And the photographer is Fred Finney. And the last one in black and white is Heading On Out.
I like this. This works really well for me. Apparently night picture with under a porch light, a little snow dusting on a deck. I like the lines, the composition, the zigzag. The footsteps add more to it for me. I like that. I found myself playfully thinking it would have been fun to make the footsteps follow the path of the railing and do a zigzag as well. I don't have any constructive criticisms for this. I like this image. I think it's a very nice one. It's a fun one to look at.
And the photographer is Lucy Tatro. Now we are in the color category. This is Horsetail Falls Going Off.
This is a well-executed capture of the classic firefall in Yosemite. I think the optimal time to catch this spectacle just passed a week or two ago, so maybe this is a fresh image of the phenomenon. It's great how the photographer was able to catch the glow on the granite almost as if there is heat coming from within it. The image feels a little soft to me with too few areas of blacks, so I tried turning up contrast a little, and I thought it improved an already dramatic view, especially if the photographer knows how to locally apply the contrast increase to only the right side of the image. Nicely done.
And the photographer is John Sievert. This is Imaginarium Lights.
So from a burner, this is like, oh, cool, a Burning Man sculpture. I don't think it is Imaginariums here, but this is fun. It's a wonderful topic, a subject to work with. As far as composition goes, I feel a little funny about the metal at the bottom. It goes, the point just touches the edge of the frame. Maybe the photographer was playfully putting there to touch. I would have either cropped off the point, brought the bottom border up, or I would have given it a little more room to breathe. The picture is unfortunately all generally out of focus. It may have been a very low light picture with a slow shutter speed, but in the future, something like that, if you get a little sharper, that would make the image more striking. I love self-vignetting subjects, and this one vignettes itself beautifully. So this is a fun image in many ways.
And the maker is Bernadette Sylvester. This is Midwinter in the Rockies.
This photo has a great diagonal composition and a well-chosen shutter speed to blur the water. The thing that makes this image really sing are the leaves, both submerged and laying on the ice, that keep our interest with patches of color in a circle around the frame. There is a nice range of tonalities between deep black and bright white. While the image is of course supposed to be cold, I found that moving the temperature slider in Lightroom just a little bit to the warm side brought out a pleasing glow in an already fine image.
And the maker is Brian Dunbar. This is Gnomes in the Snow.
Well, I ended up in a discussion on Facebook with the maker of this image about what different ways to handle it. I think she did it beautifully. This is the best version of it I've seen yet. I love the texture of the snow and the shapes and the color going from yellow to blue. That all works really well for me. And we'll have to work next on the fir branches and the black areas, the shadows blocking up. But other than that, I think you composed it really well. It came together very nicely. Patricia.
Actually, it was Eleni.
Oh, Eleni, I'm sorry.
Eleni Prusa.
I had that discussion with Eleni. Oops.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sure she won't mind. This one is Snow Ride.
This is an impeccable image that is almost a visual poem. The composition is exquisite, and the depth of field gives great separation between the sharp focus of the cycle and the blurred woodsy background. The snowflakes are little falling pieces of perfection. The humped snow almost seems like there's a lumpy snowman riding. Note the narrow vignetting applied to the edges of the frame that give this image the feeling of looking through the pane of a window. Beautiful and compelling.
And the photographer is Dave McClellan. That ends color. And now we are in our new category, beginner. And this one is Lone Tree.
This is a beginner, huh? This looks really good. This is nice. It's black and white treatment. You've got far away clouds and close in clouds to produce more of a feeling of depth. And then this beautiful silhouette of a tree in the foreground for even more depth. Nice foreground as a base, or I should say, not really foreground, but the bottom of the picture provides a nice base. And I like your cropping. The only constructive criticism I could think of is, although you may have the camera perfectly level, since there's no obvious horizon in the background, I would have gone ahead and made the tree perfectly vertical. I think that would make the picture a little more satisfying. But that's just a small criticism on a pretty successful picture. Nicely done.
And the photographer is now Patricia Levitin.
Ah.
This one is Green Door.
The photographer has skillfully applied artistic fundamentals to create a pleasing image. The offset composition helps add interest to the photo, and the neon green of the doors make for an interesting color contrast against the classic red of the bricks. Note the use of vignetting to keep our eyes in the center of the frame. The photo also has a good range of tonality from blacks to bright whites. The image feels just a touch warm to me, and when I move the temperature slider in Lightroom a little toward cold, I thought it improved an already nice image. Thank you for sharing.
And the maker is Patricia Levitin. And bravo to Patricia for entering, being the first photographer in our beginner category. I encourage all you beginners to enter it next time. Our last category is also a new category, and that's the phone category. And we have one image in it. This is Pacific Razorback Clam with house guests.
I had fun looking at this picture. It was intriguing when it first came on my screen. I saw the large shell to the right. I thought, oh, okay, it's a seashell. And I looked to the left and went, oh, okay, what's the scale of this photo? It's kind of makes me lose how big and how small it is, which I think is fun. The kelp in the foreground, I've seen really large kelp, so that doesn't help. But this and the blue color on the right, I like that too, by the way. And the lighting is very low to the left, like a setting sun, perhaps. And that was nicely chosen. That makes the picture even more three-dimensionally engaging. And I like the cropping. It's a relatively horizontal picture. I think it was thought out well. So I actually have no constructive criticisms for this. Your phone did a great job.
And thank you to Dave McClellan for being the first person to enter our phone category. And that concludes our show tonight. Thank you to all the photographers.
70 images in like 45 minutes. High five, Douglas.
You know what? Chris and Douglas did an incredible job tonight. Very worthwhile comments and right to the point. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Okay.
So back to you, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you guys nicely moved through those images. So thank you, Douglas. Thank you, Chris. All right, as we wind up this evening, next meeting we're always the fourth Monday of the month, March 28th. And you can vote on your favorites in each of these photo categories until the Friday night before the meeting. So Friday, March 25th at midnight to get your vote in. And I'll have the video of this meeting uploaded in a couple of days. So with that.
Also, I just wanted to give you a preview next month. We have Oliver Klink coming to talk about his specialty, which is piezography, which is a specialty black and white photography. And if you love black and white photography, you do not want to miss Oliver.
Oh, and this is stepping out of the norm, but on Brian Dunbar's Sandhill Crane picture, it occurred to me just as we were leaving that picture, that light on the bird could have been light coming through the trees behind him. And I consider that a positive. I didn't want to make it sound negative. I think I was too weird about the lighting, but I thought that was very intriguing, the lighting on that Sandhill Crane that Brian did.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to encourage everybody, if you haven't seen Kathy's exhibit, you should go see it at the winery. She did a really great job with that. And everything was spectacular. She knocked it out of the park.
Oh, thanks, David. That was nice of you. I just like any excuse for a good party, you know.
Well, I told Kathy that she's kind of bridged a couple of different genres with her creative artistry, with her photos and whatnot. So they have a very spectacular and not often seen look to them. So if you haven't seen her work there, you should go see it.
Which winery?
Nevada City Winery on Spring Street by the Miners Foundry.
Okay. And how long is it there?
Till the end of March.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the plug.
Nice. All right, folks, with that, good evening to everybody and hope to see you before another month. But if not, enjoy the spring weather. So I'm going to hit end recording.
And enjoy your rest, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a good night's sleep tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope those little pups just sleep the night away.
Not a chance, but yeah.